A formidable anti-Western coalition has infiltrated American universities, distorting historical narratives and manipulating facts to align with their ideological agenda. They are even willing to edit and revise long established factual evidence from the archaeological record to lend credibility to their narrative. They publish papers laced with their biased interpretations in respected scientific journals. Key findings in these papers are then amplified by their media mouthpieces, who propagate a particular spin on the flawed data. In this video, we will explore how leftist academia has forged influential alliances abroad. We will examine how these foreign interests are bolstering anti-Western sentiments through media support and financial backing. From the Mesolithic era, 12,000 years ago, to the beginnings of the Silk Road, 100 BCE. The Tarim Mummies. For decades, the enigmatic Tarim mummies discovered in the arid expanses of western China's deserts have captivated and confounded anthropologists. European explorers like Sven Hedin, Albert von Lecoq, and Sir Aurel Stein braved the high Chinese plateau in the early 20th century. These Western explorers, possibly inspired by enigmatic ancient texts, unearthed pyramidal mounds and burial mounds that would later reveal the mysterious Tarim mummies. Serious excavation efforts got underway in the 1990s. The mummies had shockingly light-skinned and light-haired features. Smithsonian. Some of the deceased appeared to have red or light-colored hair and facial features unusual in Asian populations. The Tarim mummies gained widespread attention and became a cause célèbre within alternative media, particularly among Euro-ethnic advocates. Popular YouTubers like Robert Sepehr seized upon the discovery of the Tarim mummies as evidence of the adventurous spirit of Iron Age Europeans. Sepehr claimed in his 2021 video, Ancient Chinese Mummies, that the Chinese government hid 40 ancient pyramids. He suggested that uncovering these pyramids would reveal the origins of the mysterious desert mummies. He claimed that while they are visible on Google Maps, the military had planted trees and shrubs to obscure them from view. Sepehr's video on the mysterious pyramids and the blonde-haired mummies of China received over 285,000 views. Far Western origins? Even some mainstream historians and institutions seem to agree that the Tarim population originated in the West. In a PBS Nova episode, Victor Mayer, a Penn State linguist specializing in ancient languages, mentioned that the mummies had quote-unquote red hair, bluish-green eyes, and described them as quote-unquote European type of a person. PBS narrator. The Tarim mummies are as old as 3,800 years, but remarkably well preserved. Even more startling, the mummies are clearly not Chinese. Quote, "These mummies from China don't look like they should be in China. They look like they should be in Denmark or Ireland or northern Germany," end quote. Dirk van Terrehout, Houston Museum of Natural Sciences. FactsAndDetails.com, Professor Emeritus Elizabeth Barber of Occidental College and a leading expert on ancient textiles, used the plaid cloth to surmise that the mummies shared Celtic ancestry with the Scots. It was even suggested that the Tarim people's origins could extend as far north as Scandinavian lands. Viking-like boat burials. Smithsonian. Despite living in a desert area, the Tarim people were buried in boat-shaped structures covered in cowhides with grave markers shaped like oars, a practice most often associated with the Vikings. Climatic records suggest that around 3,000 years ago, the Tarim Basin had significantly wetter climate with pockets of desert oases. There is also evidence indicating a series of rivers and lakes that created riverine oases suitable for agriculture. The Viking-like burial rituals for the Tarim peoples are also supported by a 2021 study, which we will be highlighting throughout this video. The genomic origins of the Bronze Age Tarim Basin mummies. Paper 2021. Although mostly uninhabitable, the Tarim Basin also contains small oases and riverine corridors fed by runoff from thawing glacial ice and snow from the surrounding high mountains. Another key point, the mummies were all dressed in wool, felt, and leather, which is unusual for the region and more common to northern European populations of the era. This would include later Gravettian populations, Solutreans, and Magdalenians, 25,000 years ago to 8,000 years ago. The Tocharians. Ticanatekaria, Itanenas, Archios, Laos Macrini, Sigenia, Methoxylenius. For centuries, the Tocharians were regarded as legendary figures shrouded in myths and folklore. Their origins were a mystery and widely debated among historians. There were hints of the Caucasus or even Central European origins for the Tocharians. Although their origins remain a mystery, historians generally agree that the Tocharians eventually ended up in the Tarim Basin and remained there for 3 millennia, starting 3500 BCE. Life science. Tarim mummies, who are they? 2021. Some scientists speculated that the Tarim people spoke an early form of Tocharian, an extinct Indo-European language spoken in the northern part of the region after AD 400. Friedrich Müller, a German linguist and museum curator, was the first person to identify the Tocharians. Müller had studied their ancient texts and declared them to be Scythian-related tribes. Britannica. Tocharian, Tocharish, represents the eastern frontier of the Indo-European world. Continuing, with an obvious lexical influence of Indo-Aryan, Tocharian seems more closely allied linguistically with languages of the Indo-European Northwest, particularly Italic and Germanic. Certo, signori, il suono dei Tocharian è come italiano classico, non è come italiano moderno. Me capisci tutto? Grazie. Tarim Rowsell holds a master's degree in medieval history from the University College of London. In 2021, he published a video titled Blonde Mummies, Tocharians, and Indo-Europeans of China, which has garnered over 535,000 views. Following extensive analysis of historical documents and language origins, Rowsell determined that the Tarim mummies most likely belonged to the Tocharian people. Rowsell, quote, "The Tocharians were a white European people. End quote. Rowsell also cited early historians and, quote, contemporary Chinese sources who have referred to a European people in Western China, end quote. This is confirmed by LA Times reporter Barbara Demick at factsanddetails.com 2015. In a 2010 study based on genetic tests of Tarim mummy remains, geneticists from China's Jilin and Fudan universities concluded that the ancestors of these ancient people had indeed come from Europe. Rowsell analyzed the language roots of the Tochari community and identified links to Indo-European speakers from the Russian steppe area. They exhibited a phenotype characterized by light skin and hair. Rowsell continues that some of the descendants of the Tocharians were Uasi and Scythians. Both of these groups also had light features. This was recently confirmed by Austin-based geneticist and Spencer Wells' friend Razib Khan here at YouTube. Quote, I pulled their DNA. You'd probably call them white. 25% of them had blue eyes. End quote. As per rhesusnegative.net 2023, the Scythians were noted by ancient historians such as Herodotus, Hippocrates, and Zhang Chuang for their green eyes, their light skin, and red hair. Dawn of the Silk Road. The Scythians, a nomadic group, were thought to have their roots in Pontic steppes, situated north of the Caucasus from 2,000 to 1,000 years ago. TheCollector.com, the term Scythian to describe the nomadic Iranian people who dominated the Pontic steppe around the Black Sea from the 7th to 3rd century BC. Continuing, trade between various Scythian groups across the steppe then helped move these goods from east to west, facilitating the creation of the trade route known as the Silk Road. Jarians. The Jarians, known for their nomadic lifestyle and rituals, inhabited the northern region of the Tarim Basin, adjacent to the Tocharians. The region of the Jarians is bounded by the Altai Mountains in the north and the Tian Shan Mountains range to the south. Life science. The ancient Jarian people, unlike the Tarim people roughly 500 miles to the south, descended from both the indigenous ancient North Eurasians and pastoralist herders of southern Siberia, known as the Afanasyevo. Paper, The Genomic Origins of the Bronze Age Tarim Basin Mummies. We find that the early Bronze Age Jungarian individuals exhibit a predominantly Afanasyevo ancestry. Paper, The Genetic Origins and Linguistic Expansion of the Indo-Europeans. These Afanasyevo people had strong genetic links to the early Indo-European Yabnaya people of southern Russia. According to studies by Alan Toft and Wolfgang Hack et al. 2015, the Afanasyevo people were genetically indistinguishable from the Yabnaya people. They were pastoralist herders from the Russia steppes. Hanel and Karlberg 2020 state that blonde-haired gene KITLG originated in ancient North Eurasian ANE population and later spread to the Yamnaya people, influencing their genetics. The ancient North Eurasians. Chungwan Jiang and colleagues suggest that the Terran people are ancient North Eurasian descendants, different from the Afanasyevans to the north. Paper, continuing. The early Middle Bronze Age Tarim individuals contain only a local ancestry. Live science. It was likely migrating Afanasievo herders had mixed with local hunter-gatherers in Jungaria, while the Tarim people retained their original ancient North Eurasian ancestry, Chungwan Jiang said. Paper. Our results do not support previous hypotheses for the origin of the Tarim mummies, who are argued to be Proto-Tocharian speaking pastoralists. Jiang's paper steers away from any connection between the Tocharians and ancient North Eurasians, but the overwhelming body of evidence does suggest a strong link. This connection is based on linguistic and archaeological evidence suggesting that the Tocharians may have migrated from the Afanasievo culture in southern Siberia to the Tarim Basin. Evidence shows ancient North Eurasians were whites. A 2024 study, Genetic Relations of Ancient North Eurasians to Anatolian Farmers, found that ancient North Eurasians are predominantly of West Eurasian ancestry related to European Cro-Magnons. Although the ANE primarily lived in Siberia, their genetic influence extended far west into regions such as Finland, Estonia, Germany, and possibly even into Viking territory in Scandinavia. Family tree DNA. The R1A lineage is believed to have originated in the Eurasian steppes north of the Black and Caspian Seas. Cultures known for the domestication of the horse, also believed to be the first speakers of the Indo-European language group. And a study released in January 2025 that we recently covered on this channel, inference of human pigmentation from ancient DNA by genotype likelihood, suggests the emergence of light hair, blonde hair, and blue eyes in Northern Europe as early as 12,000 years ago, precisely in the region of the ancient North Eurasians. YouTube genetics expert Andre mapped an A&E sample from Yana 1. Andre found him to be 70% Western European, Gravatian. Also, he reports that Yana 1 likely had light brown hair and medium Mediterranean-like skin tone. Undermining Western exceptionalism. In the 2000s and 2010s, academic institutions in the US and UK launched an aggressive campaign against Western exceptionalism. Woke college professors and administrators sought to dismantle traditional values and rewrite history. Traditional white male college professors were shoved aside as the nation's colleges were flooded with foreign teachers. Western expansion eastward conflicts with the woke agenda. Intrepid Viking-like Westerners expanded to the far reaches of the Eurasian supercontinent didn't fit the preferred narrative of the anti-colonialist and anti-white elites. Media headlines like in the UK Daily Mail shouted, "Tarim mummies, not Western origins." A popular search engine published a headline stating, "Tarim mummies, not white people." Christina Warner, a renowned anthropology professor and genetics researcher at Harvard, also disputed previous evidence of Western origins for the Tarim mummies. Her views were featured in the Smithsonian Magazine and other science media. Live Science, Tarim Mummies 2021. Many archaeologists believe they were descended from Indo-Europeans who had migrated to the region from somewhere farther west. Warner, quote, "It turns out some of those leading ideas were incorrect," end quote. Of note, Professor Warner was one of only 3 non-Chinese authors on the 2021 paper on the Tarim mummies. Harvard Crimson, April 2022. Of the foreign funds Harvard received after 2019, the university accepted $93.8 million in gifts. Sources from China contributed $69.9 million to Harvard over the same time period, outpacing all other countries. Kefir cheese controversy. Scientists have recently confirmed that the white substance found around the necks of the Tarim mummies is fermented dairy, specifically a type of cheese known as kefir. The study was released in September of 2024, Bronze Age cheese. In a CNN interview, Professor Warner, an expert on ancient diets, admitted that kefir cheese around the Tarim mummies' necks suggests Western origins 3 years after co-authoring a paper denying it. CNN, DNA from 3,600-year-old cheese, September 2024. While the dairy product found with the mummies is the oldest intact cheese in the archaeological record, other evidence such as continuing milk residues on pottery suggest that cheese making originated much earlier, likely more than 9,000 years ago in Anatolia, Warner noted. The Terran peoples likely had a cultural connection to the Afanasievo to the north, known for their pastoralist lifestyle despite being separated by the Tian Shan Mountains. It is also likely the Terran peoples who are descendants of A&E might encompass the Anatolians, renowned for their pastoralist lifestyle and cattle herding. Political motives? Facts and details. Edward Wong, New York Times. Foreign scholars say the Chinese government, eager to assert a narrative of longtime Chinese dominance of Xinjiang, is unwilling to face the fact that the mummies provide evidence of heterogeneity throughout the region's history of human settlement. In 2011, woke administrators abruptly halted the Tarim Mummies' nationwide tour due to concerns that it was igniting a sense of Western pride among various European ethnic groups. UK Daily Mail Museum exhibit pulled 2011. With their Caucasian features, this proves that people migrated east from Europe, taking their customs and skills with them. Continuing, the museum exhibit was pulled. There was speculation that it may be linked to the mummy's Western appearance and Chinese sensitivities about what that implied for the region's history. The anti-Western, anti-white push and the studies published in Western journals may very well have been the result of a foreign government pushing an agenda. As we have repeatedly emphasized on this channel, it is crucial to consider the political inclinations of the researchers and the funding sources when assessing recently disclosed scientific discoveries. In the case of the Tarim mummies, much of the recent research from academic sources appear to have been influenced by anti-Western or even anti-white sources. Independent journalists and content creators, including many found right here on YouTube, provide more historically accurate information than the big media and academic sources. Sepehr, Rowsell, and other independent researchers have provided indisputable evidence. The famed Tarim mummies were of European descent. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.